Hello everyone and welcome to Homemade TCG. My name is James and today we're going to be talking about what not to do when creating your own homemade TCG. And we're going to be doing that in this video right now. So the first thing I want to cover, and it may seem like a simple and obvious one, usually the first one is just don't rush making your TCG. These things take time, and if you can learn patience, whether that's creating a homemade TCG or just in life in general, you'll get much further. Patience is the one gift that I want to make sure that everybody absolutely has, because the one thing I can't stand is an impatient person. And I know it is so frustrating because creating a TCG, creating 100 cards minimum for a good set, it takes time. It takes so much time, but guess what? It is so worth it when you get to the end, when you're finished. It is so worth it. So take your time when creating a TCG, because if you get to the end and you rush through, then you're going to notice all the mistakes that you've made along the way that you need to go back and fix, or perhaps you've released it and you feel like it's too late to fix those. It becomes a very big problem. Now, drawing on my own experience with Shard TCG, we took our time with that, and I still feel like there is plenty of things that we could have went back and fixed anyway. So perhaps we did rush it to a point, I guess, but it definitely took a long time. It was over a year in the making to actually get this game out, and when it was finally done, we were so satisfied. But like I said, there were still lots of little mistakes, little things that needed to be fixed. So do not rush it, absolutely. And another piece of advice that I would like to give you creators today is to create your own board game first. Now, when I was growing up, I made lots of board games for my little brother and my little cousin. We'd just, draw on paper and we'd make loads of board games. A TCG, if you are thinking about creating your own homemade TCG, it's going to be a huge project. You're talking about a lot of pictures, if you know what I mean. There's a lot of drawing, a lot of balancing. A board game, I don't want to take anything away from board games, but a board game can be a lot simpler. Now, starting by creating your own board game first, gain that experience, learn what mechanics from other board games are quite good that you can incorporate in your own board game, and knowing that in the long run that you will be wanting to create your own TCG, you'll then be going in with experience. Experience is a massive thing and you're going to need that. And this in a way compounds on the first one, having patience. Yes, you are delaying your TCG, but it will be better for it in the long run by creating a simpler board game. When you look at a lot of board games, you're seeing about 20 unique cards, when a TCG will have a minimum of 100 plus unique card designs. So creating a board game is a lot less intensive on the artwork and things. And if you're using something like the Game Crafter to create your own board game, they do have all the tools that you need essentially to create your own. They've got the meeples, they've got the cards, they've got the boxes, they've got tins, they've got all sorts. They've got hexagon tiles, they've got giant boards that can be printed on. You can do a lot on the Game Crafter as well as just making a homemade TCG, like a lot of people in the homemade TCG community actually do. So why on earth would you limit yourself to just one form when you can explore that other side of things? I would love to create a board game through the Game Crafter in the future. I've discussed it with various different people in my life, and some ideas come up and they crop back down, but then I revisit them later, and eventually, a long time in the future, with a little bit of patience, I will have my own board game on the Game Crafter eventually. Okay, my next piece of advice when creating your own homemade TCG is to listen to your audience, but do not follow them blindly. Now, what I mean by this is the audience is fantastic at pointing out things that you've done wrong, but sometimes those things are put in there deliberately, or sometimes the solution that they offer isn't always the solution that is needed for the situation. Take, for a simple example, say you've got a game with elements in, and you have fire monsters and you've got water monsters, and people complain that the water monsters always beat the fire monsters because, you know, water beats fire usually in those certain types of games. Would you then create a solution where the fire monsters are able to beat the water monsters, or is that just a part of the game? Is that the balance where, of course, the water monsters would beat the fire monsters, but the fire monsters beat the grass monsters, and then the grass monsters beat the water monsters? You know, I'm just talking about Pokemon at this point. Yes, you can add some small little mechanics to make things easier for the people who want to play fire against water, but you don't want to upset the balance. So all I'm saying is definitely listen to your audience, but do not follow them blindly. That's all I'm saying. Don't just go, okay, I'm going to adjust this to whatever you say, because then it's not the game that you set out to make. You wanted to make a game, you've took the initiative and you started creating it, and as a creator, you deserve to have the game that you want. And let me just tell you, if you put that care and dedication into the game, then other people will see that and will want to play it anyway. So I hope that piece of advice helped you out, because I've seen a few people fall for that trap before, and then it's a lot of backtracking to get back to where you originally were when you were creating your TCG. Okay, and the next thing that we've got on the list today is don't overcomplicate your game. Trust me, if you start off with a very basic, simple game, lots of just the bare numbers, the bare effects, and just go from there, over time, you will have a complex creep. You will start adding lots of little things and it will become a bloated monster. It just happens. It will creep that way. So when you start off making your game, strip everything away. Just strip it away and have the bare bones and go from there. It will become more complex. It will find its unique path and have its unique flavour. It is easy to overcomplicate a game, but it is so hard to have a simple game that is complex enough to keep people interested. That is what you're trying to find. So like I've already said, strip it all back and just go from there. Add those layers when necessary. If you just do that, you are already on your way to creating a great homemade TCG, and I look forward to seeing it in the future. Okay, and the last piece of advice on mistakes that you might make when creating your own TCG is to not be ashamed of your TCG. Now, I know this sounds a bit silly, but it's actually a really important one, because remember, a lot of people who are creating their own TCGs are doing YouTube channels, and I see it all the time. People create new YouTube channels and there is this sense of embarrassment, you know, they're like, oh, it's just a silly card, and like, oh, it's, you know, it's nothing special and everything. Be proud of your creations. This is a huge mistake to do, because it's human psychology, where the way you speak to people is how they perceive you. If you are always negative, then guess what? People aren't going to like you. They're not. You know, and if you blame the world for that after, if you're throwing out negativity and all you're getting is negativity back because you think the world's negative, guess what? It's because you are the negative one. Try and be positive, right? So when you've got cards, go, look, I've got my lovely shiny Naxxramas here, and I'm proud of this. Yes, it's not a unique design per se, because, you know, it's based off the beholder in a lot of ways, but you know, I love the way like the tendrils wrap around the eyes instead of being attached. I love just like the background, because I went for a 0 point thing, so you can see like going down the corridor, and that's a lovely card, and I am proud of that. I am so proud of that. And as a TCG creator, you should be proud of your creations, so don't be ashamed. I know when I talk to people IRL, I notice that I come off differently. I notice that there is that little bit of shame, but it's because they're not people across the world, you know, they're people that I'm standing face to face, and I have had to overcome that the last couple of years. You know, the way that you compose yourself tells people a lot about yourself. You don't want to be ashamed of this. If somebody starts laughing at you, saying like, oh, you create cards, you create a kids game, and you go, yeah, guess what? My name's James, I'm 30 years old, and I'm creating a children's card game. And guess what? It's a lot of fun. It's really fulfilling. What are they doing? You know, they're going home and they're watching television and stuff like that. They're not having a creative outlet. It's brilliant. It's brilliant having a hobby. It's good to have those little things. Have that creative outlet. If somebody wants to shame you for being a creative person, then you don't want them in your life. So that was my mini rant for the end of the video. But yes, the message is very important. Stand up tall. Look people straight in the eyes and tell them you create a card game. And it's a lot of fun. And there's a lot of people that show interest in it. And you enjoy doing it. It's a creative outlet. What creative outlet do you do if you're going to be so judgmental? And if they don't, and if you don't convince them, like I say, they're not for you. They're not your audience. Leave them behind. Surround yourself with the right people. The people that make you stand tall naturally, where you don't have to force yourself to do it around the negative thinkers. Do that and you'll be fine. You'll go on to create great things, whether it's a homemade TCG, a board game, a piece of art, an animation. There's so many outlets that you can go through. So choose any of them or all of them and have fun. Thank you very much for watching this video and good luck with your own projects, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.